I run a creative team, which is inside of the Disney Creative Studios. That's a portion of the company. We do what do we do? All right. My particular team, we handle motion graphics, we handle character animation, we shoot corporate videos, we do editing, we do green screen, layouts, logos, QR codes, pretty much whatever the sales team needs to assist in a particular pitch, they come to us. Also, I run the outdoor LED signs in Times Square. Good Morning America, they start the show off with an LED sign, like ribbons and whatnot. I run that sign as well, and I run the LED sign in Times Square for the Disney store. So right above the Disney store in Times Square, LEDs. Running those LED signs is quite a bit of work. They're like small cable stations. We have to know exactly what content, what creative is up on those signs at every minute of the day. So aside from doing the animation and all that really cool stuff, we still have to operate, maintain those signs in Times Square, and it's a bit of work. With those signs, we have live events like musical acts for New Year's Eve, for Rocking New Year's Eve, like Dick Clark's production. That's our busiest time of year.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, we have interactive events. We have where we might have some kind of creative up on the signs, and we have a hashtag, or we have where you can interact with it. We have live shows, live streams, a few different events. And on the larger scale, sometimes we're part of a campaign that might involve maybe 12 signs in Times Square at one time. So imagine, Gatorade as the client, and they have their particular colors up on 12 boards in Times Square. It becomes more of an immersive experience. You're standing right in the middle, do a 360, and you can see all these different boards. But that's pretty much what we do on a day-to-day.
And they're paying a lot of money for those placements, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot riding on the specifics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They work with the sales team. Sales team locks the deal. They let us know, hey, this is going to be, let's say Coke. Coke is going to be up on the super sign, next week for 5 minutes an hour for 2 weeks. We then discuss production. Is my team doing the animation or their team doing the animation? If their team is doing it, our After Effects, we use After Effects as well. Our After Effects template is a bit involved. The sign is very unique with these ribbons. If you guys have a chance, you can go to abcsupersign.com and you'll actually see a live feed of the sign.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you see, it's pretty unique. We have a production call with the client. We go over what the ins and outs are of using the particular template. And if we're doing it, we'll create storyboards, flesh out the client's concept. We'll get to a certain point, we'll submit a low-res animation for review, because our high-res is pretty big. It's like 4K and can be a couple of gigs for them to download, and they may not have the equipment to actually run it. So we send them a low-res for approval. We get their feedback, whatever that is, and once we finalize what all the approvals on a particular animation, we render out the high-res. Then there's a process. Then once we get their approval, final approval on the animation, we do a final render, Apple ProRes. We ingest that remotely into our system, and then we use a web app to schedule everything for the sign. Now we have to look at the sales contract and make sure, this particular client was 5 minutes an hour for 2 weeks. So we got to make sure we schedule it correctly. And then we always send an email to follow up that everything has been set in the system.
And
For
do they
that,
often plan like events of their company like in front of the sign during the 5 minutes that they're up? I would imagine.
Nintendo, and Nintendo brought over, I can't remember how many tons of sand, and they put it in Military Island, right underneath the sign, and they had all of these events while we had their creative running on the board. But
Wow.
usually when they do an event like that, they usually they block some time out. Instead of a hourly basis, they'll say, okay, we want the sign 100% time for 4 hours. So, and Nina and I worked together at MTV years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Back when TRL was a thing.
Yeah. 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 So I've been, in September, I'll be with Disney 15 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
how did you get started at Disney? And what are some of the projects you've worked on before this?
Yeah. So a little backstory on my end. I know
Yes.
you guys, I'll try to make it quick.
No. It's been very interesting because like we just did a whole filmmaking workshop the first 2 weeks and of the internship. And like, I think people who don't have film experience kind of think like, you know, the storyboarding and all of that is like just me like kind of giving them busy work, but it's actually very important for client relationship.
Very important, very important. And each client has a different way how they want their storyboards to be executed.
Oh.
For me, you know, so for me, I'm glad everybody's in school. You got to get that training in. I didn't do too well in school. I got left back twice. I dropped out, 11th grade,
No, that happens.
It happened. I went to 4 different high schools in Queens and Manhattan. But, I got married early. And then after a few years, I always used to draw comic books or cartoons. And I just said, at the time already, I was a father. I had my son, my oldest son. He was pretty young back then. And I just said, I was working as a doorman at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you know what, let me try to see if I could do something in the creative field. I figure if I try it, doesn't work, it is what it is. But I tried it. I did pretty well. I went to first, mostly college, New York City Technical College in Brooklyn.
Yep.
And I was in their advertising degree program. From there, I moved to Pratt Institute. I got my degree in digital design and interactive media, which was cool because the students were able to touch on so many different mediums. So I was able to do editing in Media 100, or Premiere, Final Cut, or do After Effects, or do Studio Max in 3D.
Yep.
We shot two short films while I was at the college. And then from there, I jumped into the field and I became a character animator. So that's like being an actor with a pencil. So,
Yes.
So in character animation, I worked on several shows. So which one? So I started off at UBO. Not sure if you're familiar with that, Urban Box Office at the time.
Yes.
I worked on a sci-fi show, and then I was able to work on several commercials. And then I finally started working at, which one came first? Pinky Dinky Doo for PBS, I believe it was back then.
Yes.
And then Wonder Pets, I think that's Nick.
Oh God, yes.
Right. And then I got to work on Little Einstein.
Oh wow.
Disney.
Yes.
Of course, I worked at MTV where we met.
Yes.
Once I went to MTV, I started transitioning more into motion graphics.
Yeah.
So I started doing more motion graphics. But you got to really work hard. I didn't know anybody in the industry, back where I came from. So
Same.
There's no connections or anything, but you got to work hard to get in.
Because I felt like me, you, and Manny had all kind of come from the same exact situation.
Yeah, Manny's great, and you just got to really keep pushing. Once I got to where was it? Little Einstein. It was funny because a really quick story. I was at Little Einstein, and I got called by a recruiter. And when I got called by a recruiter, I couldn't really hear too much because we had the whole crew of Little Einstein there. So I moved over to a different area, and they said, we have a position for you that you might be interested in. I just couldn't understand where they were calling from. And when you work as an animator, a character animator, most of the time, it's like working as an actor in a film. You're there for X amount of time. So I knew I was going to be a character animator at Little Einstein for, I'm not sure, I think it was 4 months, I believe.
Yep.
But then after those 4 months, you don't wait until that time expires for you to start looking for work. You gotta be proactive and try to find work beforehand.
Absolutely.
Because you know, the friends that are with you, they're the same people that you're gonna be competing with, unfortunately, as a character animator. So I got the call. I said, yeah, sure, I'll go over. And then I checked my email, and it was actually Disney, the Disney company. So while I was on Little Einstein, I was working for Curious Pictures, and they were producing the show for Disney. So this time it was Disney, and I couldn't let Curious Pictures know that I was going to go to an interview. So I had to jump on a cab. I brought my suit with me. I brought a suit, a tie. I never put that stuff on, but I had to put it on for this interview. It was a big interview. And I paid the cab driver a few dollars, and I changed it in the back seat. I changed into my suit, and got the interview. And after 2 or 3 interviews, I got the job, and that's how I got there. So we just don't know. When you start in the field in entertainment, you just don't know where that might lead. You might want to be an editor and may transition into directing, or a storyboard person might become an editor, or vice versa. You might want to start producing. In animation, you could be a character designer and move into backgrounds. But you need that experience. You need to jump in maybe as an intern, or just whatever field you're looking to get into. Just find as much work as possible. Whatever it is, just
Find it, do it. If you can't find it, make it yourself.
Now's the time. It wasn't like back then. Now you got YouTube, Vimeo. You got all these places where first excellent resources are up there.
Also, it's easier to edit on your own. You don't need to like rent an Avid.
Not anymore. I mean, you can edit on an iPad. I don't know what like a Premiere app or whatnot. So as a character animator and as a motion graphics person, definitely got to have a reel. For actors, I think is a demo reel. Yeah, right. A demo reel. Yeah. So for us, if I'm looking for an individual to join my particular team, because it's slightly different from one post house or advertising place to another, or network. You know, I need to see a strong sense of an After Effecks level within their reel. So then I'll look at it. Okay, you know, I'll judge it based on what I see. Don't worry about music. You know, I generally turn it off. To tell you the truth, I just don't have time. I just turn it off.
Good to know.
But if I was looking for an After Effects person or a motion graphics person, you know, they would need to know a little bit of 3D, just Cinema 4D for us. That's the one we use. After Effects, of course, Photoshop, Illustrator, and plugins. You know, just the standard plugins that they use in motion graphics, like Particular, Optical Flare, Real Smart, just the Red Giant suites. And then for character animation, it's all in the acting. You can see a character animator's skill just a few seconds in. There are different ones like traditional, like traditionally drawn animation. They're segmented, where it might be like After Effects, more like a puppety style animation. They have mixed media, where it's all mixed, and they have 3D animation, like you know, Pixar.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Have you guys done any like AI virtual reality stuff, or is that a different division?
No, we haven't. I know that in some events they use an outside vendor, and that vendor would take care of a particular experience that they may want to have at this particular event. So we might support the event team by creating additional animations or graphics, and they would work with the overall vendor on a project, and they might work with sub vendors or additional vendors that can support a different experience throughout an entire event. So, like an upfront might have one main vendor, and then they may have a couple of additional vendors handle a particular experience during that event. We were commissioned by the Fish Tank King. That's a show on Nat Geo. I'm not sure if it's still on air. I'm not sure, but we were commissioned to do animation on the American Eagle sign in Times Square. Now that sign is about, I think it's 15 stories high.
Wow.
And what they wanted to do was they were premiering I think their second season, I believe it was, and they wanted to have an interactive event where you had fish and they would have brand ambassadors on the pedestrian area, and the brand ambassadors would give away whatever it is, keychains or fish candies. And they would have people punch in a
fish,
question.
if you will.
Yeah, and they would have people punch in a question. So there was 4 fish that they were focusing on, and if you ask a question, one of those fish would reply back in a text that would show up on the sign.
Yes.
It was cool because besides the interactive part, there was the animation, the background behind it. So I flew down to Florida, and I was working with the crew, and we had to shoot the fish in several different ways and environments. And then we put all the fish in a green screen, with the fish tank. So we shot that, each one individually. We had a fish wrangler that would move the fish around. One fish became pretty difficult, and we had to get another fish to replace him. So,
oh, that's hysterical. So like you were like swapping out fish because his personality was crap?
Yeah, he just wouldn't work out.
That's
so we put the whole thing together. We shot it in Florida. We brought it back. We had backplates of the tank itself, and then we had to key the fish out of their background. So that's
yes.
It's called keying. You knock out the background.
Yeah.
So we did that. We put the whole thing together, and that was one portion of it. So you'll have a minute or two of the fish in Times Square that will transition into the interactive portion. And then they'll ask the questions and whatnot, and then that will transition into the promo for the show with a call to action or premiere date or whatnot, and then it will transition back. So, and then that would happen for about, I think it was 3 hours, the event. It's been a few years, but I think it was like 3 hours, the event. And it came out pretty cool. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, Red Giant for sure. Yeah, that's used in the industry all the time. Chorus as well. For After Effects, if you're gonna go into motion graphics, yeah, definitely add some 3D, whether it's Cinema 4D or Maya or whatever other 3D software you might be using. Just be mindful because some networks use different softwares, and you might be a specialist in, I don't know, 3D Studio Max, but that particular network requires that you learn Maya. It's not a bad transition, but it will take some time to train and get accustomed to the terminology and what they actually call certain features in one program as opposed to the other. Yeah.
What's your advice for someone kind of starting out from where you started out and wanting to work in the industry? Like, what's your best advice to them?
Yeah, just work really hard, really hit the forums, stay up to date with your software. Like you mentioned, some of the students might be editors. Yeah, look into what the industry is using right now, whether you go through a forum or ask other individuals or networking, events or websites and forums. Just so for an editor, if most of the editors are using, what are they using now? DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah.
If they're using that and you're coming from, let's say, Final Cut or Premiere, I would definitely look into it. just to know that you have another option, because when you go for an editing job, you just don't know what software they're using. So it's good to be familiar with
Absolutely.
all the different
Actually,
software.
that they're learning DaVinci Resolve as part of their internship this summer. So
Oh, that's really good. I speak to other editors, and yeah, everybody really loves that software. We still use Premiere. It's just for what we use it for, because we do more graphics. But when we do editing, because it comes with the Adobe suite,
yep.
so it's there, so we use it.
And also for us, it's free. So
Oh,
it's a useful tool to learn on, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also, and I was saying it's becoming more and more of an industry standard.
Yeah,
past 4 years.
absolutely. Yeah. When we shoot, we use 2 cameras, a DSLR to shoot some video, but photography, Canon 6D. And we use a Blackmagic Mini Ursa, which is the 4.6K.
Yeah, I love that one. I've used it occasionally, and it's nice.
It's nice. It's really nice. And